Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is October the 1st, 2025. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Hopefully you had a good Wednesday, a good hump day, if you will. Hopefully you humped and you didn't get humped. Unless that's what you're into, then by all means, hump away. But yeah, my day was good. It was solid. Work was still slow, which I greatly appreciate. It's been a nice port in the storm where I feel like normally we would be pretty slammed. So, pretty much same day as yesterday, only there was a lot less people I noticed in the building. But yeah, the work matched, so that's good. It wasn't overwhelming. I'm hoping that the rest of the week is the same. But let's see. After work, I did have to help out a coworker. At least I chose to. They because of the holidays, they needed someone to give them a ride because even though they normally would be celebrating, situation came up where they weren't. So I said, yeah, I gotcha. So I've been giving them rides, or I'm going to be giving them rides for the rest of the week. Which it's weird because the way my schedule is always like edge to edge, like I go to work, from work I go straight to the gym, everything kind of cascades together, and like everything's kind of nice and neat the way I want. So even like a little disruption of saying, hey, I'm going to go 15 minutes out of my way to drop you off. Like that is something that's going to have, a bit of an after effect on my day in a way that I don't like. But overall, I feel like I've gotten used to it. You can never have a perfect day or a perfect week every week. That's just how it goes. And I know this month is definitely going to be one of those months where I have to just adapt. So, that all went well. I will say, though, I just couldn't help myself, and I decided to make a pit stop at home since, from where I dropped them off to the gym, now the home is, before I get there. So I'm like, yeah, let's just reconnoiter at the house real quick. So, of course, like a 15-minute, maybe 20-minute deviation into I don't know, an hour and some change. But it was good. It was nice. Sometimes it's nice to have a change of pace. I think that's something that I can kind of take for granted these days. So, it's nice to move a little slower, take a deep breath or so. You know what I'm saying? So we did that, got to the gym, a little bit busier than I liked for a Wednesday. I was at the freeway area and I was kind of edge to edge, and I'm like, man, I can't even do my Bulgarian leg squats right now. So did a little bit of an audible, but other than that, everything was how I wanted it to be. I was able to get in all my movements, all my, all my sets and whatnot. So that was good. It was nice. Overall, good workout. So yeah, that was my day. This episode's probably going to be posted a little bit later than I liked, but so it goes. I appreciate y'all for bearing with me and being patient. But yeah, before we get into our, startup, in our episode, it's the first of the month. So it's time to do roll call. Starting from the top, Stephanie Renee, Edward Haas, Mama Bear, Aaron Walden, and of course, any of our silent donators, our silent newsies, I appreciate you all the same. Thank you so much for your support. It really does mean a lot that you take it the extra level by, giving me a little money. That is greatly appreciated. It is very helpful. So thank you. Thank you so much. Love y'all. But yeah, let's go ahead and do our startup and let's get into some news. Gonna hopefully have this episode be a little bit more closer to the classic standard as I like. Hopefully I feel like I'm more locked in today. I don't know. I will say though, while it's on the top of mind, the school collapse in Indonesia, obviously that's still an ongoing thing, but it is still in a rescue scenario, which, I'm kind of saying is a good thing, just in the sense of hey, there's still people to be rescued. But it is just a tenuous situation because they want to try to get people out without making the building collapse worse. So, if I hear any more updates out of that, I will definitely come back to the story for sure. But it's not on the queue, but I figured, hey, let's go ahead and just mention that while I'm thinking about it. All right. Our first story, though, comes from Al Jazeera. 41 killed as Israel continues to destroy Gaza's infrastructure. Let's see here. Now they have it was a live kind of posting, and now they just kind of have a recap of it. The Israeli army shelled Al Hilal Hospital in Gaza City, hitting the facility with 2 artillery rounds. The army also flattened a multi-story building in Gaza City. Doctors inside Al-Shifa Hospital have described horrific scenes as Israeli attacks forced many patients to flee despite needing urgent care. In his latest social media post, Trump said that all are on board for something special in his efforts to negotiate peace in the Middle East. The Israeli army said it hit Hezbollah weapons warehouses in its latest attack on southern Lebanon. A group of Israeli settlers established an illegal outpost on Palestinian-owned lands west of the town of Deir Istia, northwest of Salfit. Mahmoud Hassan Akkad, sorry, maybe I'm sure I'm getting that wrong either way. A 24-year-old Palestinian has died after being shot by Israeli forces in occupied West Bank. And then another story that has been percolating, but I haven't really gotten to. I kind of wanted to wait until things really hit the fan because we've covered, Greta Thunberg. I'm getting her name wrong. Greta Thunberg, but her, campaign and really trying to say, hey, I'm trying to get aid. I'm trying to do anything I can for Palestine here, and I'm willing to put, myself on the line, and there's others with me that are willing to. They had already tried. I think they've. The what we're about to talk about is going to be their third run, but this is a very big attempt with a very large flotilla, not just one boat. So I wanted to mention that because I know that they are kind of officially coming up against Israel's Navy, I guess as we speak, or it's already been happening. But from NPR, activists say Israel's Navy has begun intercepting a Gaza-bound aid flotilla. Activists on board a flotilla of vessels sailing toward Gaza said late Wednesday that the Israeli Navy has begun intercepting their vessels as they approach the besieged Palestinian territory. The global Shmud, flotilla with Greta Thunberg, Nelson Mandela's grandson, Mandela Mandela, and several European lawmakers aboard consists of nearly 50 boats and 500 activists and is carrying a symbolic amount of humanitarian aid. It has remained undeterred in its mission to break the Israeli blockade of the coastal strip and reach Palestinians. So I just wanted to mention that, especially because they have officially been intercepted by Israel. I'm very curious how they are going to approach, handling the people that they are detaining. Are they going to actually put them in prison? Obviously, there was a really big fear of violence happening in the situation, at least in my perspective, especially from Israel onto this flotilla, saying you guys are engaging in waters in space that you shouldn't be, and we can treat you as such. I feel like they've been of two minds about it when they talk about it in the press, where they go, "Oh, this is a publicity stunt," and it shouldn't be taken seriously. They're playing around here. But then there's also another side of the coin here where they're saying, "Oh, actually, you guys are trying to aid Hamas one way or another, and we're going to treat you guys as terrorists for that." So yeah, that's what we're saying. Oh, also too, to kind of backtrack a bit, because this was a thing that was worth mentioning. Israel Katz had said, "Hey, I forget his exact position, which is escaping me right now, but essentially he had told people of Gaza, saying, hey, if you remain where you are and you're not heeding the evacuations, we're going to treat you as terrorists, flat out." And I mean, these are just words at this point. They have already proven with their actions that they're going to kill any Palestinian civilian. They do not care whether you're Hamas or not. They're just going to say you are after the fact or just not care. But to be so bold as to say, if you don't leave, and which in some situations people cannot leave, to say, hey, you are a terrorist for doing that, and we will treat you as such. That's wild. That's insane. But I mean, it is a tack that has been used over and over and over and over again by Israel, and I know they will continue to do so. So yeah, I mean, once again, all eyes are definitely on Israel and what they're going to do with this flotilla situation. I think we all knew that it was going to come to this head and they were going to intercept it and do something. But once again, post that something is, I guess, where we are at now. So I will keep you posted on that. But let's move along. This is a story that actually fully kind of, I guess you could almost say went its own way, but I wanted to talk about it, just, to at least say we talked about it, and there might be more to come back to later. But from BBC, Afghans rejoice as internet returns after Taliban blackout. Afghans have taken to the streets to rejoice in the restoration of internet and telecom services after the Taliban government shut them down, provoking widespread condemnation. Local reporters said communications were resuming, while Internet Monitor NetBlocks said network data showed a partial restoration of connectivity. A source close to the government confirmed to BBC Afghan that the internet was back by order of the Taliban prime minister. The 48-hour blackout disrupted businesses and flights, limited access to emergency services, and raised fears about further isolating women and girls whose rights have been severely eroded since the hardline Islamist group swept back to power in 2021. On Wednesday evening, hundreds of Afghans took the streets in the city, capital city Kabul, to spread word that the internet was back. One man told BBC Afghan, everyone is happy, holding their cell phones and talking to their relatives. I remember just kind of hearing this, that okay, this was a big deal and people weren't exactly sure what was going on. Rumors were kind of spreading, but everyone really got worried when they looked to the capital city of Kabul and they noticed that, there's a severe lack of internet activity, which means this isn't some kind of outage. We're not doing some kind of pocket thing here. There seems to be something widespread going on. And this is where we're going to move towards speculation, because essentially the Taliban have come out and said, hey, there wasn't any outage. You guys this is all rumor, this bullshit. It definitely looks like there was some kind of forced outage here, but the reasons are still, kind of escaping people. I feel like the surface answer is they said, hey, we're doing this for prevention of vices. Essentially, we don't want you to go on and look at porn. We're trying to stop that, so that's why we're cutting off the whole internet. But even, I believe, what is it, Sharia law? I'm going to be getting that fucking wrong here. My bad. But, for religious, cultural reasons, they're we want to make sure that we put the kibosh on this shit. So we might be willing to take it that far. That is a very big extreme. You are cutting off communications from not just Afghanistan to the world, but even within Afghanistan. And I think that was the main key reason, potentially. And once again, we're deeper now in the speculation, because it's been kind of another rumor swirling around that maybe there was some potential infighting, and one side of this was saying, hey, we need to cut the internet right here, right now, either to do a coup or stop a coup. Essentially saying, hey, communications need to be, flattened right now. And then I think once things kind of ballooned out, or maybe they said, okay, we got things sorted out, they said, okay, we can turn the internet back on, and now we're back. So good that things are back in order. But definitely, a very concerning, startling situation to come out of Afghanistan. Obviously, things are really tough right now. Have been tough. You have everything, which is the Taliban, but also economically, people are really struggling. So I know it's tough all over. This is the last thing that people needed, was to be cut off digitally, from each other and just the world. So once again, good that is back online, that everyone's back online there. So at least partially, I don't know. But yeah, we will come back to the story if I hear any more whispers, rumors. But yeah, I definitely was let's get to that. Let's talk about that at least today. And then I heard, the internet's back. Well, let's still talk about it. All right. Our next one is an update on the government shutdown. It did officially happen, which is kind of surreal to me. But Also, I'm just taking this opportunity to talk about it. I mean, listening and learning a bit today. This is maybe feels like what, third, fourth or so. I've been a part of several government shutdowns, and I think I only knew about maybe one or two of them. So I was like, oh, goddamn. But this is the first time that it's happened since I've been podcasting. So I felt like it was worthwhile to say, hey, let's take a pause or take a deep breath, read a whole story, read a whole article, really get in our article head mode, and break down what's happening, what potentially will happen from here. What's the scene right now in Capitol Hill? You know what I'm saying? So let's go ahead and take a sip of water, quick water break, and then we will start, doing our little read along. All right. From the Associated Press. Government shutdown takes hold with mass layoffs looming and no end in sight. Also, I love this photo they have here. They have two people holding a notice of the temporary shutdown, and the two of them are just pouting with their thumbs down. I'm like, yeah, I guess that's a vibe. Anyway, the federal government was thrown into a shutdown Wednesday with no easy endgame in sight, as Democrats held firm to their demands to salvage healthcare subsidies that President Donald Trump and Republicans in Congress have dismissed as something to possibly discuss later. The White House threatened mass layoffs of federal workers rather than simply the normal furloughs. In a matter of days, seizing the chance to slash government. Blame was being cast on all sides. No new talks were scheduled after the president failed this week to secure a deal with congressional leaders. Let's be honest, if this thing drags on, warned Vice President J.D. Vance during a White House briefing room, we're going to have to lay people off. Roughly 750,000 federal workers were expected to be furloughed, and some fired by President Trump's Republican administration. Many offices will be shuttered, perhaps permanently, as the president promises to zero in on programs Democrats like. Trump's deportation agenda is likely to run full speed ahead, while education, environmental, and other services sputter. The economic fallout could ripple across the nation. Democrats believe their healthcare campaign is what House Leader Hakeem Jeffries called a moral issue, but cracks are emerging within the party. A Senate vote on the GOP plan to fund the government without the health subsidies failed, but it drew some Democratic support. I certainly pray they will come to their senses, House Speaker Mike Johnson said, flanked by GOP leaders at the Capitol. This is the third time Trump has presided over a federal funding lapse, and the first since his return to the White House this year. His record underscores the polarizing divide over budget priorities in a political climate that rewards hardline positions rather than more traditional compromises. I think I was listening to someone say, I was listening to The Daily, and one Democratic senator, he more or less was saying something along the lines of, Trump does not play by the rules. So why is it that we are trying to do the same kind of thing, right? And I'll give him that. Once again, anytime I hear a flicker of that, a trace of that, I do get a little bit of I want to be optimistic that at least you motherfuckers can understand that it's if you guys are gonna try to play this whole by the book bullshit, you are never gonna make anybody happy. You're only gonna be doing window dressing, and I think we all know that at this point. People want to see more. But let's see. Let's scroll further. Sorry. The Democrats picked this fight, which was unusual for the party that prefers to keep the government running. But their voters are eager to challenge the president's second-term agenda. Democrats are demanding funding for health care subsidies that are expiring for millions of people under the Affordable Care Act, causing the insurance premiums to spike nationwide. I think that was another reason why they said, hey, we don't have a choice but to pick this battle now, because these things are going to lapse out if we don't make you put them in now. Republicans have encouraged Trump to steer clear of any talks. At the White House meeting, he gave the congressional leaders Trump 2028 caps. Afterwards, the president posted a cartoonish fake video mocking Democratic leadership that was widely viewed as unserious and racist, which I would fucking agree. We're not going to get really into the details of it. It's just some shitty AI slop, a lot like the Trump Benjamin Netanyahu AI video of the quote unquote Gaza Riviera, them with their shirts off and a fucking beers in their hand, that fucking weird ass fucking rot. But let's continue. They do add a little bit of context there in this article. President Trump's behavior has become more erratic and unhinged. Democratic leaders Jeffries and Senator Chuck Schumer said in a joint statement. Instead of negotiating a bipartisan agreement in good faith, he's obsessively posting crazed deepfake videos. Asked about the depiction of Jeffries with a mustache and a sombrero, Vance dismissed it as funny. So, which I also love a guy like JD Vance, because years before he came down on his fucking knees for Donald, he would have said this shit is fucked up and gross and very problematic, very racist. And, you know, probably would have been in someone's DMs crying about how fucked up Donald Trump is. But because he saw where the wind was fucking blowing and he wanted to be at the top of the heap, you know, he fucking shapeshifted. And now we have this fucking guy. But, I mean, to be fair, I didn't like either version. But that's neither here nor there. Maybe that's my hillbillyology. What neither side has devised is an easy off-ramp to prevent what could become a protracted closure. The ramifications are certain to spread beyond the political arena, upending the lives of Americans who rely on the government for benefit payments, work contracts, and the many services being thrown into turmoil. Man, I could not imagine the feeling of more or less working for free. And I know that you're not, right? I know that your money, especially if you are being forced to work, like you have an essential job, they need you to, you aren't working for free. There is a back pay system that will be initiated, but you don't know how fucking long that is, how long it's going to fucking take. Not to mention, you need money now. Rent's due now. Groceries you need that money now. So I just can't imagine having to take out loans, take out credit cards in situations where you shouldn't ever have to do this shit. And it's not like you're ever going to be fully comped by that. You know, the government's not going to take that and, you know, and fix your fucking credit score or whatever when you have to fucking eat this kind of shit, right? You're just supposed to take it in fucking stride. So in that regard, it is fucked up to finally see that and like really look at it now as a person. It's just like, God damn, it couldn't be me. That's all I know. But I mean, this is something that just have massive ramifications. Like if you don't have that money, well, guess what? You're not spending shit. You know, you're going to be staying in the house more. Like these are all things that are going to have very negative effects on the economy the longer it goes. Trump's Office of Management and Budget, headed by Russ Vought, directed agencies to execute plans not just for furloughs, which are typical during a federal funding lapse, but mass firings for federal workers. Vought told House Republicans during a private conference call Wednesday of layoffs coming in the next couple of days, according to a person granted anonymity to discuss it. An economic jolt could be felt in a matter of days. The government is expected Friday to produce its monthly jobs report, which may or may not be delivered. Wall Street veered towards losses before the opening bell Wednesday as the shutdown went into effect just after midnight, but stocks hit more record highs later in the day. Across the government, stoppages were getting underway. Medicare and Medicaid health care programs are expected to continue, though staffing shortages could mean delays for some services. The Pentagon will still function, and most employees will stay on the job at the Department of Homeland Security. But Trump has warned that the administration could focus on programs that are important to Democrats, cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. As agencies sort out which workers are essential or not, Smithsonian museums are expected to stay open at least until Monday. A group of former national park superintendents urged the administration to close the parks to visitors, arguing that poorly staffed parks are a danger to the public and put resources at risk. Ahead of Wednesday's start of the fiscal year, House Republicans had approved a temporary funding bill over opposition from Democrats to keep government running until mid-November while broader budget talks continue. But that bill has failed repeatedly in the Senate, including Wednesday on a 55-45 vote. It needs 60 votes to advance, which requires cooperation in a chamber where the GOP has a 53-47 majority. A Democratic bill also failed. Divisions within the Democrats are apparent as 3 senators again crossed over to join Republicans. One Republican opposed the GOP plan. It's also worth noting, too, because, we got to track this giant motherfucker. John Fetterman was definitely one of those fucking 3 who were in dissension in the Democrats. So I love that. I love this big motherfucking oaf. It's always now just going to be a stick in the mud, dude. Just... Oh, man, it's just so disappointing, a guy like John Fetterman, just literally just filling the gap that a Manchin or a Kirsten Sinema will leave. These worms just always come up out of the mud, and it's just once again, I do truly think that cargo short wearing motherfucker is just the last Democrat I kind of bump like that, oh, I'm just a guy, I'm just a man's man. Bullshit. You're out for the highest bidder, you're out looking for who? You. Fuck that motherfucker. Anyway. Divisions within the Democrats are apparent. I think I already said that. I did. During the roll call, a widening group of senators engaged in an intense conversation, including GOP Senator Mike Rounds of South Dakota, who has been talking with colleagues about the idea of a 1-year extension of expiring healthcare subsidies. It's just one thought, and there are other ideas that are out there, Rounds said afterwards. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who has said Republicans are happy to discuss the healthcare issue, but not as part of talks to keep the government open, is working to peel off more Democrats to his side. Which I for some reason do kind of think that that might be a prevailing thought from people, is that when they hear a guy like John Thune talk, essentially saying, hey man, we had a clean bill. We had a clean bill and everything was supposed to go down. I'm not against listening to what they have to say, but this is the wrong time. But granted, we know that if we actually do sit there and play ball with the conservatives, they're just going to be like, no, we're not making these changes. Shut the fuck up. And that's what the talk is going to be. So I do think that the Democrats are right to fight over this. It's just a question of how it's going to be perceived by people. And I mean, it's argued that people were saying, hey, Chuck, we don't want you to lay down and just let this shit lie. We want you to do something. And if that's what your base is saying to you, and not to mention, you have a Democratic Party that really has no leader. There's no purpose to it other than the fact that we have to be the opposite of Donald Trump, but yet we're going to do the things that Republicans are more or less doing. So you don't really have anything other than just being obstinate. And so he said, okay, I'll reverse course and I'll be obstinate. And it's like, okay, cool. So now we're shutting down the government and what comes. But I mean, if you guys just actually go, okay, we'll just capitulate, then what was this for, right? I think at this point, yeah, you definitely have to get something. Otherwise, this was all for nothing, and it's just going to make people really upset with you. But also, how does this get perceived? How long is this going to go? I mean, I think the last one that was big was 35 days. But I mean, more or less what I want to get to is how is this going to look for the midterm, right? When that comes up. What does it come next year? I mean, is this going to be something that once again is going to be perceived as a win for conservatives, or is it going to be considered a win for the Democrats? I don't fucking know. Let's see here. I guess there's some more things I want to let's just keep reading. Might as well finish it off. The standoff is a political test for Schumer, who has drawn scorn from a restive base of left flank voters, pushing the party to hold firm in its demands for healthcare funding. Johnson sent lawmakers home nearly 2 weeks ago, but said they would be back next week. Trump, during his meeting with congressional leaders, expressed surprise at the scope of rising costs of healthcare, but Democrats left with no path toward talks. That is the sense. During Trump's first term, the nation endured its longest ever shutdown, 35 days. Over his demands for funds, Congress refused to provide to build his promised U.S.-Mexico border wall. That's very cute. In 2013, the government shut down for 16 days during the Obama presidency over GOP demands to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Obama. Other closures date back decades. I believe another one was during the Clinton administration over some fucking shit or whatever. So I was like, damn, there's definitely been more, funding lapses or whatever, government shutdowns than I thought. But that being said, these things should never happen. It is almost always political posturing every time. And it's crazy because people right now are not making money and having to go to work or just whatever, right? But these lawmakers who are making the fucking rules here are getting paid. Some of these motherfuckers are out on vacation right now. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like no matter what side you're rooting for here or agreeing with, disagreeing with here, I think that's something that I think everyone can say that's pretty fucking stinky. That's pretty fucking gross. But yeah, I mean, I really do hope that this is a short shutdown, one way or a fucking another. And if I'm being honest with you, I don't know what's the correct move. Obviously, I think that the Democrats are right to fight over this healthcare shit. I think that is key. I think that it is too little too late, personally, but I think you would rather see them pipe up and fight for something rather than just, once again, just keep rolling with this shit. So maybe that's worth it. But once again, I do not see when I look at the Democrats, I do not see a party that is walking towards anything other than, and this is maybe a weird phrase because I've been trying to think of like how to encapsulate how I feel about it. But it's like the Democratic Party seems to only be good at being rabidly centrist. So like something like the French party that we see, that like Macron's party, you know what I'm saying? Where we've talked about them, where they're just more or less just middle of the road motherfuckers, and they keep trying to do this thing where they're trying to hold the line and they lose it. Like year by year with the shitty fucking decisions that they fucking make. This feels so similar when I look at our American Democratic Party, where we can have a brat Kamala fucking summer and do nothing with it, waste our whole fucking time just to lose to a fucking crazy old guy who goes on a couple of podcasts and just lies all the time. Because at the end of the day, they have nothing real to sell you. They just want to sell you a feel-good package every goddamn time. And this to me just feels like, once again, where you guys got booed enough and Chuck Schumer is like, you guys want to fire me? Like, I can't believe that. And so here we are. He's finally standing up for something. But once again, yeah, if you compare him to fucking Donald Trump, yeah, he seems like he's really a good old guy. He's really fighting for truth. A real champion. Him and Hakeem. Well, I mean, whatever, man. But like I said, we'll see how this fucking shit shakes out. I just felt like it was really important for me to take the time and yap about this shit more fully. My little fucking shit summary wasn't enough from yesterday. So yeah, okay, we're closing out with something lighter, but actually physically much heavier and technically more deadly. You know how it works with these fucking food recalls, man. But let's go ahead and take our last break and we'll close it out. Something a little fruity. Oh, that's the good stuff. Our last story comes from All Recipes. All recipes matter. Sorry, I don't know why. I'm dumb. FDA announces recall of popular chocolate snack due to laceration hazard. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, announced that True Fruit LLC has issued a voluntary recall of select True Fruit freeze-dried products due to the potential presence of metal. Ting, 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 ting. The recall was initiated by Georgia Nut Company, a third-party manufacturer for True Fruit, after a customer alerted the company of the matter. There's metal in my True Fruit. The products were distributed nationwide to major retailers, including Albertsons, CVS, Food Lion, I don't know why I did that, H-E-B, Hungry Root, Ingles Market, Kroger, we love Kroger, Stu Leonard's, and Target. We actually don't love Kroger. It's actually low-key boo Kroger, because why am I paying so much money? And also, speaking of so much money, I don't really fuck with True Fruit. I was very interested because, I've seen the girlies, they be eating this shit. It looked really yummy. They say it's yummy. I think I tried either it was True Fruit or it was just like a Reese's brand equivalent. and I mentioned that on a food review. It is yummy stuff. I do like the idea of like getting fruit and chocolate, getting it frozen, and it's almost like almost like an ice cream treat, right? But it's a little healthier for you. But personally, it's not something that I've gone back to since the food review. I felt like I scratched the itch, and maybe I dodged a fucking bullet because there's fucking metal in some of this shit. But anyway, if you have purchased True Fruit freeze-dried strawberries in dark and white chocolate, or True Fruit freeze-dried strawberries in cream, check the back of the package for the 10-digit manufacturing code. The first 4 numbers and letter combinations of that code will identify the affected products. We're not going to really run through them, but they are available on this article, and obviously you can look them up. Obviously, it's a buyer beware situation. So if you have purchased this product, throw it away. There is a recall line you can hit, 888-293-7748. And then you can also email truefruit@rqa, inc.com. And let them know the situation. Maybe you can get kind of refund or, point in the right direction there. I imagine maybe you can even take it to your store. Maybe you can get sorted out that regard if you got the receipt and whatnot. But just obviously be careful. This isn't like a Super Smash Brothers situation where you ingest it and then you become like a metal version of yourself. I would love that, though, if that was the case. Heavy metal Isaiah, I would actually go back to the True Fruit if they gave me those kind of powers. Granted, I don't know. I don't know if I can handle being that heavy. Sorry, this is a really dumb joke. But yeah, no, obviously, just, buyer beware, be careful. But I will say that shit does still look yummy. I think I'm cool on it. Let me just get my fresh strawberries if I'm gonna get them. Let me get my little chocolate. Nom nom nom, nom nom nom. That works for me at least anyway. But yeah, that'll be it. That's the episode for today. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, become a newsie today. We are looking for you. We're looking for more recruits. No, I shout you out at the top of the month. I plug a project if you'd like. That is an option. You can use me as a little billboard, but regardless, it's helpful for the effort. It's nice. It makes me smile. It makes my heart warmer. But regardless, it's a-okay. But free ways to hit me up, isaiahnews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow on TikTok. Follow on Spotify. Follow on Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen. Let's see. Leave a like. Leave a cool comment. A nice comment. We love those. Thank you. Sharing is caring. All the stars are appreciated, whether it's on Spotify or Apple. But regardless, I just appreciate you listening. I appreciate you coming to my world in one way, letting me in your world in another. It's very nice. I always appreciate that. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.